Lenovo Legion R7000 was the most popular gaming laptop last year with a 6-core CPU and an entry-level GTX GPU, sold at $756. 1 year on, the new R7000 2021 is launched as predicted. It has a similar specs to Los General but with a RTX 3050. Is it powerful? How does this new R7000 perform? After this video, you will find the answer. Specs first, it's an AMD R55600H processor with 6 cores and 12 threads, an RTX 3050 laptop DGPU up to 95 watts, a dual-channel 16GB DDR4 3200 MHz RAM with dual rank, a SN730 SSD with 512GB, a 15.6 inches 1080p IPS screen with 100% Adobe RGB and 60 Hz. The laptop starts at $847 and now sells at $953. Its exterior resembles the old ones with slight changes. First, ports. It has 2 USB-Cs now. The one in the back supports PD charging, which is rare among gaming laptops at this price. Adapter is upgraded to 230 watts from 180 watts and it's larger, which is not that portable. Next, look at the performance test. This laptop is powered by AMD's mainstream CPU R55600H. AMD released its entry-level 6-core chip, but few laptops use it. It applies a Zen 3 architecture, with 6 cores and 12 threads. Max turbo frequency is 4.2 GHz. Its iGPU is downgraded to Vega 7 with slight decrease for clock speed. The default TDC and EDC are 58 amp and 110 amp, the same as 5800H. In Cinebench R20 loop test, this R55600H chip got 3750 to 3800. Except that the CPU power reached 75 watts at first, it remained 70 watts later, with a frequency of 3.9 GHz, 25% decrease compared to R75800H, exactly the divide between 6 and 8 cores. Its GPU carries the same Ampere architecture as other 30 series. It's processed by Samsung 8nm tech, but with a Georgia 107. This GPU has 16 SM with 2048 CUDA cores in total. The laptop adopts a 4 GB 128-bit GDDR6 VRAM, the same as GTX 1650. With a small capacity, I'm not sure how it performs in games. The max power level of RTX 3050 comprises of 60-watt TGP, 20-watt CTGP and 15-watt dynamic boost, more than RTX 1650 and similar to GTX 1660T. Besides, it adds an RT core and 4 tensor cores to each SM, indicating that the 50 series GPU makes ray tracing and DLSS possible in games. For an entry-level RTX GPU, ray tracing isn't that practical, but DLSS works. After specs, benchmarks. Compared with lower GTX 1650, the default RTX 3050 improves a lot. FSE scores 6414, time SPI 5381, 50% higher, but still lower than 80-watt RTX 2060. We also tested the GPU under different power levels. Surprisingly, compared to the 60-watt GPU, there is 12% up for time SPI, and only 8% increase for FSE and superposition, unproportional to the power growth. The increase is even smaller when compared with the 75-watt one. Hence for RTX 3050, the balance between performance and power comes at around 60 or 70 watts. For standalones and ultra settings, only Tomb Raider and Forza Horizon 4 reached 60 FPS, with the rest at 30 to 40 on average, which may be a result of its 4 GB RTX 3050 VRAM. Under ultra settings, Three Kingdoms and Cyberpunk took up over 95% of the VRAM, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla even maxed out its VRAM with an FPS less than 10. Once in medium settings, FPS became much better, accessible to most standalones, except that Cyberpunk ran at 59.3 even with DLSS on. But under 1080p and DLSS, graphics quality is quite low, bad for game experience. To an entry-level GPU, it's more important for games to run smoothly. A more powerful GPU is recommended for a pleasant game experience. For online games, thanks to MUX and dual-rank memory, Dota 2 averages 164 FPS and CS:GO 389, excellent for online games, but the non-gaming 60 Hz display would disappoint gamers. Now moving on to content creation test. PS scores 795, A. 956, and PR. 507. Due to the 6-core processor and entry-level GPU, the points are lower than those of high-end gaming laptops. But it's enough for easy tasks. The combination of R55600H and RTX 3050 will probably become a trend for entry-level gaming laptops. R7000 with such specs has a good performance. Under 1080p, online games works well, and standalones are okay with lower graphics quality. FPS can be improved with DLSS on for some games. Thermal system is essential to the high power level. It's easy to disassemble the laptop. Unscrew all the screws to disclose the backplate. The interior is basically the same as R7000P. Both use double fans and 3 heat pipes, but R7000 uses 5-volt cooling fans, which are weaker than the 10-volt fans of R7000P. Under the central cover are two 8GB 3200 MHz RAMs with dual rank. The stock SSD is 512GB, SN730, PCIe 3.0x4. And there's an M.2 slot. Wi-Fi card is changed from Intel AX200 to Realtek 8852AE, supporting Wi-Fi 6. The battery has a capacity of 80 Wh, 20 Wh larger than that of last general. But the upgraded R7000 no longer supports HDD, only SSD available. Thermals. With 25 degrees around, in stress FPU, CPU ran at 96 degrees, 79 watts, and 3.9 GHz. In stress GPU, it ran at 78.9 degrees, 95 watts, and 1687 MHz. In dual stress test, CPU, 100 degrees, 54.7 watts, and 3.7 GHz, while GPU, 77.6 degrees, 80 watts and 1875 MHz. The highest 44.5 degrees appeared at F7 key. 39 degrees for WASD and arrow keys. Compared to last gen, there is an increase of keyboard temperatures. The noise under full load is 51.3 decibels, noticeable but quieter than most gaming laptops. Generally, R7000-2021 has an ordinary performance in thermal tests. The wattages of 55+80 under dual stress test is good among entry-level gaming laptops. But CPU reach 100 degrees. Since it focuses more on performance, the temperatures and noise become worse. Then the screen. Tested color volume. 101.7% sRGB. Color coverage, 94% sRGB. With default color correction document average E as 0.6, with 1.44 maximum. Max brightness is about 300 nits with DC dimming. Black to white response time is 17 milliseconds, while gray to gray is 28 milliseconds. But the refresh rate is only 60 Hz for non-P series. Higher one is available for P series. After the review, I'll list 3 pros and cons as always. Pros. Firstly, an aggressive GPU performance with MUX and DGPU. Both as 50 lineup entry-level GPU again. Previous 1650 gaming laptops ran the best at 50 watts, while 3050 at 95 watts, which poses a challenge for thermal's design, and Lenovo doesn't fail us. R7000 maxes the power consumption out, and supports MUX, which brings its performance to the best level. Secondly, 4 USB-As and 2 USB-Cs. This laptop has various ports and docking station is unnecessary. Thirdly, 100-watt USB-C PD charging is available, which is a default configuration for the whole Legion series, even for the entry-level R7000. It's not common for basic gaming laptops. Now cons. Firstly, high CPU temperature under heavy load. R7000 performs well though. Its CPU hit 100 degrees in dual stress test. WHCIH may be affected by the 5 volts fans. Secondly, both R7000 and R7000P are plastically built, while the lid and bottom case of R9000P are metallic, and R9000K is fully metallic. As an entry-level laptop, R7000 looks cheap, especially the plastic bottom case, which feels rough and harsh. Thirdly, high refresh rate display is unavailable. Its 60 Hz refresh rate exerts a bad influence on games running at high FPS. You have to pay more to get a gaming display of 7000P series. To conclude, R7000 2021 is a regular upgraded version, with changes in specs, I/O, battery and price. Both CPU and GPU are improved, especially GPU with DLSS available regardless of a worse performance than expected. Many standalones that were inaccessible can run smoothly with lower settings. The whole Legion series supports PD charging, which is more portable. And battery capacity is increased to 80 watt-hours. Prices are strange. R7000's reference price is $953 now. R70OOP with same processor, and upgraded 3050T is only $60 higher. Honestly, if you have enough budget, R70OOP is highly recommended. I think it's worthwhile to pay extra $60 for a gaming display and 10% increased GPU performance. But if your budget is limited, R7000 is a good choice. Okay, that's all for today's video. Like, subscribe and share would be lovely. If you want to interact with us, please follow us on WeChat official account. I will talk about a laptop there every day. This laptop may be worth it or not, but all we want is to provide info and guidance. This BIBA Laptops. I'm Jawan. See you in next video. Bye.